Good Thursday to you all. That kind of sounds weird, right?
Yeah, we're a little late this week.
A little late, but hey, it's better late than never. And welcome to the Court Report with Megan Pichet, myself, Chris Stonebreaker, and of course, Jason Hickman, who will be showing up later on the show. But we have some very good excuses on why we are a little late this week. A, Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and B, on Tuesday, us here at MaxPreps got to travel down to Sleep Train Arena to play some basketball on the same court the Sacramento Kings play on. Team Max ended up beating Team Preps 49-43, and no one got injured, which is a positive.
It is a positive, and those photos we just showed there just highlights the great day that we had. And there was one guy who was missing, though. It was a little sad. Our national basketball editor, Jason Hickman, was not there on Tuesday, but good news, he is here today. Jason, how you doing?
Doing well. I'm really disappointed that I missed the big game down at Sleep Train Arena. I have no doubt that I would have had a major impact in that contest, probably as the water boy.
Well, I appreciate those comments there. I wish I would have seen those skills as the water boy. But MLK weekend was an eventful one, as it always is. And at the end of MLK weekend, there was some shuffling that occurred in the national rankings, as shown now on the screen in our new MaxPreps Excellent 25 that you released earlier on this week. And why was it that so much did occur in regards to the shuffling on the MaxPreps Excellent 25?
Yeah, Chris, well, we picked Montverde Academy as our preseason #1 and had the opportunity to see them at the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions and was feeling really good about that pick as the preseason #1. And right when you're feeling good about it, the Eagles go and get knocked off by Curie with a big performance from Cliff Alexander Monday at the Hoop Hall Classic. And that really shook things up. You've got debates coming in from people all over the country who should be #1. Some people feel Montverde Academy, with their strength of schedule, should still be the team. Others point to Curie as a potential #1, given that they knocked off the big dog in the rankings. And of course, other parts of the country go with Mater Dei or Rainier Beach. But what I will say at this point, yes, that was a monumental shift in the rankings, but we have a long way to go, and there's no doubt that there are some upsets to be had ahead of us.
Absolutely. All right, Jason, now that you're all warmed up, we're going to hit you with 3 in the key with Jason Hickman.
And since I'm cool like that, I'm going to do question #1 to you, Jason Hickman, which is, who is in the driver's seat for the national title coming off one of the biggest weekends of the high school basketball season?
Yeah, no question, Chris. I think you have to point to the top 2 teams in the rankings, both undefeated. #1, Mater Dei. What a story that would be if they were able to win the national title. Head coach Gary McKnight has done just about everything you can possibly do as a head coach at the high school level, closing in on 1,000 wins, 10 state titles, but somehow with all that success and all those victories has never won a national title. So huge opportunity for the Monarchs ahead, but they're going to have some tough challenges in the coming weeks, including #19 Whitney Young in a little bit over a week at the Nike Extravaganza. Then you look at Rainier Beach, and they're a little bit of a controversial focal point in the rankings right now. Some say, hey, they haven't played the schedule that some of the other national powers have, but the Vikings can only really play what's ahead of them, and by WIA rules in the state of Washington, they can only play 20 regular season games, and 15 of those are devoted to their league schedule in the highly competitive Metro League. So they went down to the Les Schwab Invitational in Oregon in December, took care of business, had one of the signature victories of the high school season so far, beating Bishop Gorman in the final there by almost 30 points. And then it came off and registered another very nice win at the Spalding Hoop Hall Classic on Saturday against Bishop O'Connell. And I kind of got the sense that some dismissed that victory, but Bishop O'Connell, as you see there, was coming off 2 huge victories in Washington Catholic Athletic Conference play over DeMatha and Paula Sixth, who are both nationally ranked. So I don't think it would be a stretch at all to say that Bishop O'Connell was coming into that contest as one of the hottest teams in the country. But coming down the stretch here, going to be a fascinating race. Mater Dei, Rainier Beach, and of course, with all the upsets and state playoffs ahead of us, those aren't the only two teams in the picture, but certainly they control their own destiny.
All right, and let's move on to question number 2 now. Now, Jason, I know you don't really consider yourself a scout, but let's talk about Ivan Rabb for a second. And in your opinion, where does he stack up nationally within the class of 2015?
Yeah, well, I'm not a scout. I don't consider myself an analyst, and I'm fortunate. I feel fortunate not to have the tough task of ranking players. We leave that up to our partners at 247 Sports. Obviously, guys like Jerry Meyer do a great job with that. With that said, in terms of the junior prospects that I've seen, Ivan Rabb has to be right at the top of that list. I mean, you're talking about an absolute prototype NBA power forward, 6'9", got to be in the 230-pound range. And, what I think people don't appreciate about him nationally is that he's very skilled. He's got a lot of post moves, and seeing him at the Tarkanian Classic in Las Vegas before Christmas, what I really liked about him most is I think he's figured out how to work within the team concept, and I think he's an absolute winner. Reports were glowing coming out of the MaxPreps MLK Classic there in Berkeley on Monday, and it's hard for me to imagine a guy with as much potential upside and as much talent at this time than Ivan Rabb. In terms of 2015 guys I've seen a lot of, I think Ben Simmons from Montverde Academy would be another that has to be right there near the top of the list.
Yeah, I got to see Ivan this week, and he was very impressive. He kind of reminded me of a young Chris Bosh-ish. He even has that look, that long, lean look, and if he was lefty, he would be a spitting image, I think. But let's get to question number 3, and this comes from Calvin in Orlando, Florida, and he asks, Orlando Christian Prep is 19-0 and ranked 3rd in the state of Florida. Why are they not nationally ranked?
Yeah, Calvin, that's a great question, and it's a tough one for me to answer because typically I'm the guy that leans toward teams that take undefeated records late into the season, as Orlando Christian Prep has. But the bottom line with those guys is it's very difficult to stack up where they measure against some of the other nation's elite teams because they haven't played a nationally ranked team all season. And so it just leaves a little bit of mystery. I wish I had seen them play to get that eye test a little bit. Here you're seeing some pictures of Orlando Christian Prep from last year. But in or out of the top 25, Orlando Christian Prep is a great story. Kind of live in the shadows of Montverde Academy there in the Orlando area a little bit. But they've got a phenomenal little point guard by the name of Damon Harge Jr., who is only an 8th grader this year, 5'8", 110 pounds, was profiled in the Orlando Sentinel recently, and he is certainly a name to watch in the future. And for those wondering, you are allowed to play varsity high school basketball in the state of Florida as an 8th grader. We saw the same thing with Brandon Knight when he was coming out of Pinecrest 6-7 years back.
And Jason, as usual, I want you to now share with all those watching the Court Report how they can get a hold of you via Twitter or social media.
Well, absolutely. It's right there, Chris. Pointed the wrong way there, but yeah, at Jason_Hickman. Would love to see our viewers of the Court Report weigh in on that #1 debate. Who do you have, Mater Dei, Rainier Beach, Curie from Chicago, or Montverde Academy? We'd love to hear from people.
And Jason, thank you as usual for joining us. You're so informative, and we appreciate you taking the time here to join us on the Court Report. And if you want to ask us any questions, myself, Megan, or Jason, please feel free to use the hashtag Court Report on any of the social media that you're using, and we will be sure to get to it and try to answer it right here on the Court Report.
All right, switching gears now to the women's college basketball scene. UConn is on a tear. They're the #1 team in women's college basketball, and they're on a 26-game win streak. And 2 players, Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis and Brianna Stewart, are averaging double digits for the Huskies, and they are both our players on this week's Way Back When. Brianna Stewart is UConn's leading scorer and contributed 16 points and 9 rebounds in an 83-49 blowout over Memphis yesterday. Stewart is currently averaging 18.2 points per game for the Huskies. In high school, it was a similar story, with Stewart leading Cicero North Syracuse of New York to a 23-3 record and the team's second straight New York State Public Class AA title her senior year. In the same season, the North Stars finished 10th in the national rankings, where the 6'4" forward averaged 26.4 points, 14.2 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 4.2 blocks, and 3.1 steals per game. Capping her high school career, Brianna Stewart was named the 2012 Gatorade Athlete of the Year. At Brianna's side at UConn is 6' forward Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis, who is averaging 11.3 points per game for the Huskies and scored a game-high 21 points against Memphis just yesterday. In high school, she led Mater Dei of Santa Ana, California to 123 wins and only 7 losses over 4 seasons, not to mention 2 mythical national championships. Kalina averaged 22.1 points, 6.1 rebounds, 2.7 steals, and 2.6 assists per game in her senior year, helping to secure the National Player of the Year award from MaxPreps.
And the UConn women once again on top of the collegiate women's basketball world. But is that as cool as being a top play? In this week's Plays of the Week, which start right now. And of course, in the top plays, there's always a play to start it. And in play number 1, we say thanks to Justin Andrews at JAndrews89 for sending us this play so all can witness this great video. Saratoga Central Catholic High's senior Noah Arciero provided us with this ferocious dunk, breaking the rim and causing the game to be called only 1 minute and 31 seconds into the game.
All right, next up, Wichita Heights of Kansas is down by 1 point as Samaj Hervey takes to the free throw line. He nails the first shot to tie the game and has a chance to win it with just seconds remaining against Wichita Southeast. The shot misses and Eli Bell snatches the loose ball and somehow fires off this shot, kisses the glass. Wichita Heights wins it in a dramatic 65-62 victory.
The hitting high of Iowa junior Logan Juergensmeyer made a shot against Sioux City West that would win most games of horse, attempting to save the ball from going out of bounds when he threw the ball inbounds, only to watch it bounce high and drop into the basket for 2. Juergensmeyer finished with 31 points and would have been 29 if not for that bucket. And it.
Our next play is a twofer. 2 high school basketball full court buzzer beaters. The first, Tom Canfield from Altmar Parish, Williamstown in New York at the end of the first quarter, drains it. Next, off the rebound, Wiley Lopez from Riverbank, California throws up a Hail Mary at the end of the game. End of the first quarter, third quarter. Nice job by the lefty.
Just to have an arm strength to do that, geez Louise. As Jason Hickman mentioned earlier in the show, 6'10" junior forward for Bishop O'Dowd High in Oakland, California, Ivan Rabb demonstrated all the facets to his game that make him the 3rd ranked overall recruit in the country, according to 24/7 Sports in the class of 2015. Even though all his dunks drew oohs and ahs from the crowd at Haas Pavilion during the MaxPreps Martin Luther King Jr. Classic hosted by De La Salle, it was this fadeaway over DJ Wilson that might have been his most impressive play.
And finally, Brian LeBlanc, a 6' point guard for High Island in Texas, shows he can't be stopped. Despite playing with a prosthetic leg, LeBlanc averages over 10 points per game. Earlier this season, he received all-tournament honors at both the West Hardin and Coombs Neal tournaments. Now, Joe Richard of Citrus Hill in California shares a similar story. The 6'4" forward has had a prosthesis below his right knee since he was 15 months old, but that hasn't slowed him from being Citrus Hill's 2nd leading rebounder and 4th leading scorer. His team actually opened up the MaxPreps Holiday Classic against Villa Park this year, and Chris, you were there to see that?
I was, and I could not even tell that he had a prosthetic leg. I mean, looking at both of those kids, my little hurt knee or my hand, I mean, I have nothing to say. I can never use it as an excuse.
Nothing to say. All right, great stories like this and top plays just like you've seen happen all the time, so be sure to share them with us on your social network of choice. by using the hashtag #MPMoment, and it could be featured right here on the Court Report.
And thank you very much for joining me today. And thank you, Jason Hickman, as well. And thank you all for coming here and watching the Court Report with myself, Megan Pichet, and Jason Hickman. Thanks again for clicking in to MaxPreps.com, America's source for high school sports.